what are some of the essential resources, maybe some of the obvious ones, but maybe if there are some not so obvious resources that parents of kids with special needs should be utilizing to address this like greater challenge?
So CHADD, CHADD, which is an ADHD organization, is huge. It's a national organization, very helpful. Even on their website, I mean, there's everything there. So that was always a plus. And I would go to every big meeting they had, because there'd be speakers and I just wanted to, learn as much as possible. At one point, I took my mother to New Orleans because that's where one of their meetings was. And I was like, let's go. Anything to take some stuff in. So there's a lot of work.
Beignets.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And so, good, we'll get to see some things when we're there. The other part to me, the resource part is one of the first things I ended up doing was I emailed a woman in my community, a lovely woman. We're not best friends. We're friendly. We would do a wave, but I know that her son has autism. He was in my oldest son's class. So I knew that she had gone through stuff. She knows things. And I emailed her out of the blue because I kind of think when you're desperate, you do whatever you need to do. And I just emailed this lovely lady and said, I'm in trouble here. This is what's happening. And can we sit down and talk? So I just put myself out there, which is not easy. But everyone, what we come to realize is that everyone in this community is so nice and just wants to help each other so much. So of course, this woman was like, absolutely, meet me at Panera tomorrow. And I spewed, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go first. What should I do? And she said, relax. She was where I am now, probably, where like there's less crises and more just management. Relax, take a breath. It'll be okay type of thing, which is, I think, what everybody needs is almost like that one buddy mentor, somebody that you can say, did this happen to you?
And she's a few steps ahead of you, right? And so you can
Exactly.
say, oh, you can believe her when she says it'll be okay.
Exactly. It was like, wait a minute, you don't seem like you're crying every day. And she would say, well, I did, for the first 6 years, and now we're not there anymore. So it was really people like that and those type of people. And then if I would notice a mom who had a child who was kind of running in the same circles, which may or may not seem like, the ones where they're bouncing off the walls or getting into trouble or whatever it might be, I would sometimes saddle up to them and maybe make a funny comment to start it off, like, oh, there's my ADHD, right? And then in the hopes that if they were comfortable, they would bring it up too. And then we could swap stories. And I just feel like the more you talk about it, the more people will talk to you about it. And then it's like, oh, that's happening in your house too? Like, I thought it was just my house. I just thought I was getting beat up. I didn't know you were getting that too.
So you're normalizing it, you're building that community.
Yes.
You're that whole like I'm not alone thing.
So parenting children who need strong boundaries was not easy for me. In fact, with my youngest, we did this really interesting therapy called PCIT, Parent-Child Interaction Therapy. It's the neatest thing. There's a two-way mirror. I have an earpiece in my ear, and the doctor is telling me what to say or how to say it to my child that I'm playing with. It is,
oh my gosh,
unbelievable. I never even heard of this before. And one of the doctors recommended it. Holy Hannahs, it was so interesting. There was a script. It was a script. It was all about connecting before correcting. And we had to, now this sounds so easy, but I'm telling you, it wasn't. 5 minutes a day.
I know it's not. Yes.
5 minutes a day. You needed to sit on the floor. And this worked for, I think it was like 6 and under, maybe younger. But you had to sit on the floor 5 minutes a day with your child. You had to let them play. And you were simply describing what they were doing. You weren't allowed to take over and say, oh, let's play this way. So it would say, you picked up the red car. You're moving the red car. Look at you stacking the cars. I mean,
And you're feeling like, oh my gosh.
and then yes, and so you would have the doctor in your ear saying, well, that was if you said like, oh, good job, that we don't say that, don't say that, that's not,
That's
that's not helpful, that's
mhm,
not good or bad, it just is, um but what it taught me, so after many many weeks and months of 5 minutes,
mm,
then they give you the next piece of the therapy, which is the script on, now he does something wrong.
mm,
It's all about, and it's been so many years now, but it was about the way you spoke, your tone of
mhm,
voice,
mhm.
and in the minute you spoke like that with the certain words, whatever they started with, it was as if, okay, okay, mom, like, oh, you
Mm,
mean business.
mm,
But I guess I've connected with you for so long that you trust me now.
mm.
It worked. It really worked, which um, was unbelievable. It was like so amazing. And
That's
it's so neat. It really
that's
is
so
neat.
interesting because that whole what you're describing, is describing what your child is doing, and that's almost like auditory external mindfulness. You picked up the thing. And actually this is what in mindful parenting we talk about a lot is describing the scene of what's happening when it's a difficult scene. This is on the floor. This is here. You're upset. You're upset. I'm seeing this, and this, right? This like kind of the power of just, I'm kind of hearing maybe like the power of like this, just acknowledging and describing, and you're seeing what he's seeing, and you're acknowledging that you're there fully present with him and seeing and what he's seeing, I guess.
That's a great insight. And I will say, I think that's why it had to be only 5 minutes, because any more than that, and we would have
It's
checked our
exhausting.
phone, right? We
Yeah.
would have checked our
Mhm.
phone, or we would have been thinking about what's for dinner. So for 5 minutes, it was just his.
Yeah.
Um, that was really cool. That was a really helpful therapy. You know how some work and
Mhm.
some don't. That one really was good for us, and it was good for me because of my boundary issue. So I could get behind. I could stand behind the do's and don'ts because they were fair and respectful.
Mhm.
Um, and that's important. That was important.
So, as we wrap up, I just want to ask you one final question. That is like, how can, for parents who have kids who are huge challenges, neuroatypical kids, they may be in the process of like wondering if their kid, will have any of these diagnoses that you described, and they're feeling alone, they're feeling hopeless, they're feeling scared. Wha- What would you say to those parents?
First thing I would want to do is hug them, because that's what we need first. And usually when you give someone a real genuine hug, you can't help but cry and feel it and have a chance to breathe, right? So,
Mm,
and then I would want to say a few things. The first thing I would want to say is it will not always be like this. And a therapist said that to me once as I was crying about whatever we were in at the moment. And she repeated it over and over again. And she kept saying, it's not always going to be like this. It's not always going to be like this. And she said it until I finally stopped crying. And and guess what? It's true. It's never going to be rainbows and roses, but it's never going to be like this again. You will get through
mhm,
this. There'll probably be something else, but you can get through this. It's not always going to be like this. That's big for me. The other thing is for the parents who are thinking or questioning, you have to go with your gut. That mom instinct is real. Um, and I think that's what hit me with the snow pants. That's when I
mm,
realized that you know your own kid better than anybody. Um, Even though the pediatrician said, oh, it's just a sensory thing, he'll get over it. That wasn't acceptable to me. And that's when later we found out everything about him. So you know your kid. And for a while, I was listening to the experts and doing what every doctor said under the sun until I started to realize, well, that doesn't work for me. For my kid, that doesn't work. What other options are there? So go with your gut and give yourself permission to advocate for your child. I mean, if you have to
mm,
go on mama bear, you go on mama bear. So I would then say, you're going to have to reach out. you're going to have to reach out to the community, whether it be one person that you may know, or whether it be you go to a meeting with, one of the big organizations. It's the only way that you're not going to feel so alone, because nobody can get it if they're not living in it as much as you may want to. So there are people out there who totally get you, I promise. And when you find them, you breathe. You do really breathe. So I think that's what my main ones would be.
Catch new episodes of the Mindful Mama podcast and other free resources, including the Mindful Mom Guide at mindfulmamamentor.com. You can listen to every back catalog episode, including interviews with Dr. Dan Siegel, Janla Van Zant, Sharon Salzberg, and get meditations, join our private Facebook group, and more. Go to mindfulmamamentor.com now. I'll see you there.